the board. And some news that we do have, we have some new leadership for 2021 with the chamber. Myself, I will be staying as chair. Jeremy Felix is vice chair and Keith Lewis treasurer. So we look forward to working with you and making the membership the most for you in 2021. So thank you. And each month we do have 2 sponsorships available for the luncheons. If you have any interest in that, it's a great way to promote your business. You have an opportunity to take 3 minutes to speak prior to the meeting. And also you will be advertised throughout the event or prior to the event on the website and through social media. So if you have any interest in that, you can contact the chamber office and Libby or Sandra will get that all set up for you. And at this time, Libby will give some updates.
Just admitting some more people. Yeah, so thanks everybody for being on the call and so forth. I just want to let you know that we are reinstituting our Hilliard Women in Business luncheons. Well, they're not going to be luncheons. We're going to call them meetings. I cannot get out of the COVID thing. So when Credit Union of Ohio is going to be once again our sponsor for that, and we do about 4 meetings this year. We don't do them every month, so just we'll be on the lookout. Our committee has met and we have done the programming and we're just finalizing speakers for that. So it'll be still on an 11:30 to 12:30 route when we do that. Different days, probably Tuesdays, Wednesdays on that. So looking forward to that. Also we're going to be doing another bourbon. We're going to try another bourbon night. We tried it that one time. We had to change it to a wine tasting, but I've been talking with Mike over at Heritage Golf Club, their food and beverage director, and working on another bourbon tasting where you have your own bourbon this time at your location, and the fixings can be picked up at Heritage Golf Club. So the date is to be determined. We're working out on that, but we're looking probably towards the end of February. We thought that would be a good still winter kind of a thing to know some bourbon drinks kind of a thing. So that's going to be coming up. And then last night we had our Greece information night. We are going to, the chamber does chamber trips, and it's going to Greece in November of 21. Right now we already have 35 people signed up, paid for the trip, and we had over maybe 55 to 60 people on the call last night. So it's getting a lot of good play. I think people want to, Jill and I said they want to get the heck out of Dodge. And we're hoping by November that everything in the world will be a little bit more settled with COVID so that we can start traveling because we had to cancel our trip in 2020. But this one it's great. So if anybody's interested, it's open to anybody in the US, and it's just under $3,100 at an all-inclusive resort on the water in the GNC. And that includes airfare from Columbus. So we're a fun group to join. A lot of people are returning travelers with us, and a lot of new travelers too. So we're looking forward to that.
Messenger audio.
Well, okay, everybody mute themselves. That'd be great. So anyway, I think, Mike, let me let this person in. So that is what is currently happening with the chamber and that. Also, we have a couple of door prizes. So I'm going to have Tyler, since you are our speaker, if you could give me, our first door prize is Legacy Smokehouse, $10 off your purchase. So this is really good. It does expire on March 31st of 21. So $10 off your purchase. And Tyler, if you could give me a number between 1 and 28.
Well, you see my Packers swag here, so I'll start with 12.
Oh, because that would be, yeah. So Vivian Martinez from Omniscapes, you just got on the call. So we will send you your $10 Legacy Smokehouse. We love it. It's right here in Old Hilliard, best barbecue, and the story behind their business is phenomenal. So great. Congratulations, Vivian.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And then Vivian, if you could just mute yourself for right now, that'd be great. Then our next one is going to be Beef O'Brady's, a free appetizer worth $8 value. So Tyler, I need another number.
4.
Number 4 is Andrew Gehring from Z Promotions. So congratulations, Aaron. We will mail those off to you. And I know Aaron just lives down the street from Beef, so that's pretty handy for him. Love it. So, and then our third one is going to be our business spotlight for March, which is on our website. We have you noted, as well as in our Hilliard Business Monthly, which is on the second Thursday of every month. Oh, hold on, can't see all these people. I don't get them all. The second Thursday of every month in our Hilliard This Week, or This Week Hilliard, we have an opportunity for your business to be featured. So with that, again, but I have a list of who has been in the last year has had a spotlight. So Tyler, again, 1 to 28.
17.
Yeah, that's Heritage Golf Club. So that's great. So Steve Sefner, we will be contacting you for the spotlight. So congratulations. It's a really good perk. I know we just did Tizzy not too long ago for a Spark project and so forth. So it's really a great perk. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jill to introduce Tyler.
Okay, thank you, Libby. Just a reminder, if you can stay on mute while the speaker is speaking, and if you have any questions, you can place those down in the chat throughout the presentation today. So introducing our speaker, Tyler Waple is the Director of Government Affairs and External Engagement for JobsOhio. Tyler is responsible for leading engagement, outreach, collaboration with government officials and other key stakeholders. Tyler works directly with these stakeholders across Ohio, including federal, state, and local elected officials, economic development partners, and other key organizations and business leaders. Additionally, Tyler works in close collaboration with the JobsOhio Regional Network to drive engagement outcomes across the state. He assists in strategy development, policy education, and plays an instrumental role in helping to increase JobsOhio visibility and engagement with all stakeholders. Tyler graduated from Wittenberg University with a bachelor's degree in political science. He grew up in Dublin, Ohio, and currently lives in Shawnee Hills, Ohio with his wife, Alyssa. Welcome to the Hilliard Chamber meeting, Tyler.
Thanks, Jill and Libby. Good to be with everybody this still morning. So good morning. Yeah, Wittenberg Tiger. I know Libby and I share that. So yeah, Tiger up. Thank you, Libby, for starting with some dad and mom jokes. My wife and I are expecting our first in about 2 months. And so I actually joined a dad jokes Facebook page. We're like keeping a record. She doesn't think I need to join that page, but anyway, thanks for that. Those were 2 good ones to notch down. So thanks again for having me. I'm going to share the screen really quickly. I'll run through a PowerPoint. I know this is, I want this to be more conversational, but I'll use this PowerPoint as hopefully my guide as I speak. Can I get a thumbs up if you can see this? Good, cool. If you'll put up with a brief history lesson first, I'll just go through the structure and the background of JobsOhio. So I'm sure some of you are familiar and others maybe not so much, but we'll run through what JobsOhio is. And if you put up with that, I promise we'll get to why it's important and what we're doing and some examples of some success in Hilliard and what our plans are moving forward. So about JobsOhio, obviously start every one of these meetings really talking about our vision for Ohio to be recognized as the best place to live, work, invest, and live your American dream. The word "your" is capitalized, especially here we are in 2021. Your American dream, as we see it, is not having to choose between living in a place where you have a fulfilling job and a quality of life. We think in Ohio, and especially in Central Ohio and in Hilliard, growing up in Dublin and now living in Shawnee Hills, I know generally what you're all about, and I'm sure this is really hits home for you guys, that this is a community where you can have a fulfilling career, sustain your family, and enjoy the life that you live and the quality of life that you live. And that's our goal for the whole state. Our mission is economic development, and that what economic development is and the programs that we offer to support it will change with the the economy of the state and the climate that we're in. It certainly changed a lot in 2020 for sure, but our values, I think we share these values with you all as well. Ohio is really unique in terms of economic development. We are JobsOhio is a privatized entity. We were privatized in 2011. The state through House Bill 1 in 2011 with leadership in the state legislature and at that time it was Governor Kasich coming into office for his first term, decided to privatize economic development, basically allow a private nonprofit company to assume the duties that used to be done by the Ohio Department of Development in terms of economic development, helping grow, attract new jobs to the state, and helping current Ohio companies expand. We're led by a 9-member board, which you can see the board members on the right side of the screen. Flip forward. This is just a little snapshot. I have some more relevant examples, I think, to this group of some wins in Hilliard, but these are the lifetime numbers of 2,500 projects, nearly 200,000 new jobs associated with the projects that we've worked on, significant capital investment and new payroll associated with all of those projects. I'll get into what is even a project, what's the definition of that we work on a little later on. So I mentioned 2011, as we just continue with the brief history lesson. 2011 was the privatization of JobsOhio. That's not all too rare in terms of other states. Handfuls of states have privatized their economic development organizations, but what is very unique, and to our knowledge, the only state in the nation that does this, is that we have a completely privatized funding source. Our funding, JobsOhio's funding for our economic development initiatives, comes through our purchase and subsequent operation of the state liquor enterprise. So JobsOhio went out, raised $1.5 billion in private debt in 2013, and actually purchased for 25 years the sole right to distribute and sell spirits liquor in the state of Ohio. So when you mention your bourbon night, thank you for supporting economic development through your bourbon night. So to clarify too, not beer or wine or low proof spirits, but when you actually walk into that private agency store inside the Kroger, that's separated off, that 42 proof and above agency store, that is the product. When you walk in there, that's JobsOhio beverage system product at that time. And that is the sole source of economic development funding from JobsOhio. We work obviously really closely with the state. We run the business, they regulate the business. That partnership is called OHLQ. If you go to the new ohlq.com, and there's a lot of new tools to help you find your product a little more efficiently than we've done in the past. So revenue from fiscal year 2020 was 1.4 billion. This is how that money flows. I know this is always maybe an interesting point with JobsOhio, the funding capabilities that we have. And I promise I'm going to talk about this more than just a history lesson and a fun fact, but why this is important moving into 2021. But this is how the money really flows. You'll see the cost it actually took us to run the business, to purchase the inventory, the state taxes paid. JobsOhio doesn't use any tax dollars or any public funds. We're a taxpayer in terms of operating this liquor enterprise. When we bought the business from the state, there was a profit sharing mechanism built in there. So as the liquor business succeeds and overperforms, some of that funding is shared back with the state. The majority of it, 75% of it is. And then that leftover net profit is what we use to fund economic development programs, which I'll get into here. This is another visualization of that. So when you add up the purchase price, how much we've shared back in shared profit and payroll tax associated with the projects that we've worked on, we account for almost $3 billion back into the state treasury since 2013 when we bought the business. We'll skip over this slide. We have a great team, a diverse team, a team that comes from industry. I'll explain the industry and the sector focus in a second. Really proud of this team, having being from diverse backgrounds, diverse histories, industry expertise. We're a rather trim team here with 112 full-time equivalents. When you equate that with a state agency that may have several hundred or thousands of employees, we're relatively small with 100 people. But we lean very, very heavily on the 6 regional partners that cover the state. Yours is One Columbus, formerly Columbus 2020, led by Kenny McDonald. Their team does an amazing job. And you can see in the middle of the screen the 5 counterparts to One Columbus that cover the state. So everything that we do is in collaboration with our 6 regional partners. And then when a project has a location, when a company is either expanding in a community or a new company from outside of the state has decided on a specific community, that local economic development team, I know David Meadows in your case in Hilliard, that team is everything we touch will be JobsOhio, a regional partner, the local economic development professional, and the other partners that make up our ecosystem in the economic development world. We have 10 international markets that we work in to try to recruit and bring companies from around the globe to Ohio. This is just a quick summary of the 3 things that really make JobsOhio different. Privatization of the organization. I mentioned we're a nonprofit company, not a state agency. The stable funding through the acquisition of the liquor enterprise, and that probably the most important thing is the statewide coverage through the JobsOhio network. Economic development is there's always a question and open conversation about transparency and accountability. When you're trying to get a company to expand, and all of you know this really well, I'm certain of it, but when you're trying to get a company to expand and help them do that in Ohio, or you're trying to recruit a new company to Ohio, we would require, before we would provide financial incentives, a lot of information from them. And if we're going to ask them for that information, we have to promise them that we can keep it confidential so that their business plans aren't getting out into the ether and being used against them, and some of our information not getting out there and being used against Ohio when we're competing for these. That being said, we do fulfill a public purpose. We are required by law to put out a lot of information about what we do and how we do it. And we choose to put out a whole lot more of that you can see if you go to the JobsOhio website and click the trusted partner link. So the general rule of thumb for us is anything that can be shared publicly that doesn't put Ohio at a competitive disadvantage is something that we'll share. It's really interesting. I was talking to a state legislator who has been around for a while. He was around the Ohio Department of Development days. And I didn't even know this until a couple of weeks ago. He asked me take one guess at who the #1 submitter of public records requests was under the Department of Development model. And I had no idea. And he said it was Indiana, because they would always try to figure out, in real time what some of our offers were and how they could beat us and win competitive projects. So I guess, Libby, do we want to pause for questions through? I always build these in so I don't talk so fast, but do we want to hold them to the end, or what do you think? Okay, hold them to the end. So I promised we'd get to some examples of some projects that we've seen in Hilliard. You can see up on the screen, I guess 5 examples here of projects. I believe these are all since 2013. I think Proto Persistent Additive was the most recent project. That on the right side of the screen with Amazon Web Services, that's a amazing story that maybe you know it better in Hilliard, but even growing up in Dublin, and I didn't quite realize, in 2014 when Amazon set up their data centers in Hilliard and Dublin and New Albany. That was their first real data center operations. Those 3 were outside of the coasts. And that's great at the time and a really cool story, but how they've evolved and how they've kept investing in Hilliard and what they do in the community. When I told my colleague, Ted Griffith, who runs the IT sector here and works with Amazon, that I was speaking to you all this morning, he said, make sure you bring up the great things like Girls Tech Day that they just sponsored with Hilliard City Schools, with the Think Big space on the Innovation Campus. That's the kind of stuff that JobsOhio doesn't have anything to do with that, but that's why we get excited to work with Amazon on some of these projects, because we know when we bring in some of these companies that want to be good public partners and good community partners, that it ends up taking on a life of its own down the road. Who would have thought when they first decided to go to Hilliard, Dublin, and New Albany that we'd end up with close to 25,000 Amazon employees here today, and I think close to $6 billion of investment that they've made, and the start of that was in Hilliard. So these projects, you can see, I'll just pick on like Proto Precision Additive. The most simple way to understand a JobsOhio project is This was, I believe, an expansion project, a current company in Hilliard that was set to grow. Conversation occurred between, I'm sure I wasn't involved, but I'm sure with Hilliard, One Columbus, JobsOhio, and others to say, look, we can expand. We need assistance with that expansion. JobsOhio can offer various loans and grants to help offset costs for that business. And they commit to invest, in this case, $2 million in their expansion project, hire 40 new people, and maintain their operations for a set amount of time, typically 5 years. The project lasts for 3 years, and you have to keep employment there for 2 years. So we really help lock in some of these investments for the communities that we work with, and then JobsOhio can provide tools to help them do that. That's a simple economic development project. JobsOhio, we'll get to a couple more slides, does a lot outside of the project scope, but that's an example of how we work. I mentioned economic development shifts with the economy of the time. 2020, we were all in the same boat with all of you, and just not knowing what to expect and getting thrown into new situations really quickly. We rolled out 10, I think they're there. 10 new economic development initiatives that you can see on the right side of the screen. I won't go into each of them, but just very, very quickly rolled out 10 new initiatives to try to soften the blow of COVID across the state in terms of the economic impact on businesses. And then interestingly, we got really thrown into a unique role in terms of purchasing a lot of PPE on behalf of the state. It's not necessarily what we were set up to do, but because we have folks on our team that have worked in the healthcare industries, the manufacturing industries, we know where some of these supply chains are coming from. And because we're set up as a nonprofit entity that can move quickly with flexible funding, we jumped in and helped the state track down a lot of PPE, and then in a lot of cases actually purchase it. We're going through some very exciting federal government reimbursement type processes for some of that now, but we stepped in because we were competing against a bunch of different other states and helped play that role for the state as well. We'll keep going. These are just a few examples of some of the private sector partnerships we made to help throughout 2020 as well. I'll go back real quick. That last one there is interesting to me. Who would have known that our liquor distillers, who we obviously have close relationships with due to liquor enterprise, could be so good at making hand sanitizer too. It's pretty cool stuff how everybody pitched in to help. All right, I did a lot of the background on JobsOhio, and the reason why we think that this is really important is because, as silly as it may sound, in the middle of a public health crisis, we really think that right now is the time for Ohio. For Central Ohio, for Hilliard, we're all, I think this is a huge time for us to capitalize on a lot of things. Positive global awareness. I know I'm our government affairs director, and I work with a lot of people. Governor DeWine's reaction to the COVID crisis and the steps that he took did, especially in the early stages, stand out. It gained national and international attention in a positive way. I'm not saying that everybody in Ohio or outside of Ohio has agreed with everything, perfect reaction or not. Everybody has different opinions. The point is that we had really good media coverage for the state of Ohio across the world that we're looking to leverage to try to bring new opportunity into Ohio and really work on that Ohio brand. There's a huge emphasis on reshoring, critical supply chains, the economic duress on the coastal states. You can see some of those states that we've highlighted, coastal areas, and obviously throw Chicago in as well. We see an opportunity to really talk about why Ohio is the place to invest and win some of the private sector investment that is currently fleeing some of these areas that you see on the screen. Affordability, livability, good Midwest values, whatever you want to choose is the best quality. We're marketing all of those to help Ohio's economy expand now. This slide actually may be a little outdated. It's in this ebbs and flows seemingly weekly and monthly. The top two stats, I believe, are from Moody's. It's a premier ranking agency for this type of data, put us recovering faster than our Midwestern competitors, and in the top half of states across the country in terms of getting back to pre-COVID conditions. I think I may have put in this slide. The second slide actually could kind of tell you why. I mean, we went into this crisis in 2020 from a relative position of strength. You can see our sector leadership, some of the third-party rankings about why Ohio is a good place to invest, successful in economic development, regionally in a position of fiscal strength. Obviously, when you enter into a bad situation, how strong you are entering it is really important. And we think that we were able to enter from a position of strength, and hopefully that helps us come out the back end of this really, really strong. I'm actually in our office today. It's rare for me. This is a little snapshot of some of our teammates celebrating one of the top economic development rankings on the Governor's Cup. We won the projects per capita. We couldn't quite nip Texas in the overall economic development project wins, but hopefully we'll get there, and hopefully some of those wins will be in Hilliard and help us get to that goal. I think I mostly covered this slide already. We're just going to continue to use this situation we're in right now and the advantages that Ohio has to help grow the economy. A big piece of that obviously is that I don't think I've mentioned yet, as I mentioned how JobsOhio is funded and structured. That's a huge advantage for us. A lot of states that we're competing against, I'll pick on New York, for example. New York, you can't really get a dime out of the state entity for economic development in New York. They've essentially frozen their economic development incentive programs. Various states are in pretty dire fiscal scenarios. Ohio, I know our government leaders are going to have to make some really tough calls with their next state operating budget that's coming up, but economic development doesn't need to be one of those because we are isolated, separated from the state operating budget. We're funded through the liquor enterprise. You may think with bars and restaurants shutting down, obviously our wholesale sales were down, our retail sales were up. We can get into why that was too, but we have funding to actually double down on economic development initiatives while the states that we compete against have to stop. And we think that that's part of the really big opportunity for us. And so while we're doubling down, we're focusing on Ohio businesses first. I know this is important to you. Your existing companies in Hilliard, right? So you may not care as much about finding new fancy companies to come in, but focusing on the ones that are already here. Number one goal of us, 80% of the projects that we work on are with current Ohio companies, helping them expand. That will continue to be our focus. And we are really, we're looking for silver linings. With COVID, we were able to significantly increase our BR&E, which is business retention and expansion, which is just working with the local economic development communities, the one Columbuses of the state, and us to just check in with companies, see how they're doing, and identify opportunities for growth. We significantly increased those BR&E outreaches. Getting Ohioans back to work. Obviously, there was a mass displacement of workforce with a lot of people maybe in the hospitality industry or other opportunities that their job may have gone away in the middle of the crisis. And we already had a demand for talented, skilled workforce headed into COVID that has increased. And now we see an opportunity with people who may be looking to modify their career path a little bit. And how can we help do that in partnership with the state too? JobsOhio, I think it's fair to say for the first 8 or so years, we were pretty risk adverse. We would really focus on projects with established companies that were generating revenue that had been in existence for a few years. And we still are absolutely focused on that, but just to diversify and accept some prudent risk in what we do. We're investing in innovation districts. You saw an example of one of those in Cincinnati in early 2020. You'll see some future innovation district investment from JobsOhio, working on programs that may be more applicable to smaller, earlier stage companies to help give them the capital that they need to grow. Additionally, in terms of diversification and accepting some risk, we're investing heavily in speculative site development. It's the first time we've really had a formalized program at Jobs Ohio that allows communities to build out, clean up dirty sites, create speculative sites for development. We really are focused on creating a robust inventory of sites in Ohio for economic development opportunities in the sectors that we work in. And last, and this could easily be the number one point on here, but an inclusive recovery for all Ohioans. I think, you know, we sit here in Central Ohio, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but we've seen a lot of the success in the last 10 years that the state has seen. We've felt a lot of it here in Central Ohio. There's some areas in Central Ohio and outside across the state that haven't felt that success at the same level. How do we drive investments into some of those areas? And additionally, there are people who haven't felt the success to an equal level. So how can we help make investments in small companies that are owned by underrepresented populations? So minority-owned companies, women-owned companies, companies owned by veterans or individuals with disability, in companies that are in under distressed geographies as well. How do we be intentional about lifting up all of those people and all those companies in all areas of the state? And then lastly, broadband expansion, I think just a massive issue for the state of Ohio. It was a big issue in 2019. Obviously, I think it just got more awareness as, you know, our kids were told to go to school from home, and many people were told to work from home and visit your doctor via telehealth. And there are some areas still unbelievably in 2021 where, you know, there's about 1 million people without high-speed acceptable broadband service. And how do we address the digital divide is going to be something that Jobs Ohio significantly invests in. So I think this is the last slide. I'm getting to the end, I promise. I have no idea how long I've been talking, so sorry if I'm going over or anything. But this on the left is Jobs Ohio 1.0. This was really 2011 to 2019. These are all cumulative, by the way. So everything you see on the screen is kind of the current 2.x strategy. You can see the evolution and you know, to the middle, Jobs Ohio 2.0. This is basically stuff that we learned and accepted to add to our strategy from 2019 to 2020. And then 2.x is everything that has occurred basically since March of 2020. So everything you see on the screen is going to be part of the Jobs Ohio strategy moving forward. And engagement, obviously a big thing for us is making sure that all of this information is shared. So that's why I appreciate Libby inviting us, inviting Jobs Ohio to speak here. I'll drop my information in the chat too, so you all have it. Our goal is to be as well connected as humanly possible to all of our stakeholders. That's including all of you. And that's kind of why we're here today. Cool. I will go ahead and stop sharing and happy to chat with anybody or answer any questions.
Well, I have one. When you said something about a dirty site, what I don't know what that means when you said to clean up a dirty site.
Yeah, so that could be like a site with environmental concerns. Maybe it had a company on it in the past that was doing some chemicals work or something like that. It needs environmental remediation. We have you know, some funds available to help communities clean up those sites and get them back into use so that they can find ultimately a tenant, a new business to come in there and occupy that space.
Are there some of those in Central Ohio?
I know that there are some in Central Ohio. There's a lot in areas like Southeast Ohio, Northeast Ohio. I'm sure there are some in Central Ohio. Also, I mean, that Ohio Site Inventory program is broad. We wanted to have a, you know, rural, urban, suburban, all of the above approach to what kind of sites would be eligible. So you think about your some of the bigger downtown areas that have some old buildings that need revitalization, or maybe some rural communities that have a dirty site that needs cleaned up, or they don't have any inventory of sites, helping them build a speculative building. All of the above.
Okay. Anybody else have some questions?
I do have a question. Hey,
Yeah.
Tyler, thank you first of all for presenting, and thanks for what you're doing for Ohio business. I have two questions actually, if that's okay. So the first is, you talked about where some of this kind of seed funding came from, or I guess I'm curious to hear where some of that initial capital came from as question number one.
For Jobs Ohio?
Yes, to get things
Yeah,
started.
so in 2011, when we were created, I believe there was an initial $1 million appropriation from the state given to Jobs Ohio at the time to kind of get started. But when we purchased the liquor enterprise, we did a bond offering. That's how we raised the $1.5 billion. When we raised that capital and bought the liquor business back, we paid back that initial $1 million in seed capital to the state. And that is the sole and only source of funding for us, is the operation of liquor enterprise now.
Awesome. And then secondly, what does your relationship look like with these businesses when you guys are injecting capital? Like, are you guys there with them along the way? I mean, I understand you probably can't take any kind of equity stake because you're a nonprofit, but what does that relationship look like?
Yeah, so when we do a traditional economic development project with a company, and we give them a grant, and that's associated with them creating new jobs and making investments, not only do we maintain a relationship with them in terms of their performance. So the vast majority of projects, they actually overcreate. They make more jobs and more investment than they say they will. Sometimes companies don't, and in that case, we have to work with them to modify what that agreement looked like, maybe take some money back in an absolute worst case scenario. But they maintain that, this is on like the technical, they maintain a relationship with us to ensure that their performance is working. But I mentioned the business retention expansion. That's kind of the negative response to your question. The positive one is that we do maintain, through the regional partners and the local partners, hopefully strong relationships with all the companies that we work with. Our team, and I guess there wasn't a slide that went over the sector strategy. Our team really focuses on 10 key sectors to Ohio's economy. I think manufacturing, automotive, IT, logistics, energy and chemicals, healthcare, down the line. We have folks that are working on those sectors that do try to actively maintain those relationships through business retention expansion efforts and outreach as well. So sorry for a little bit of a long-winded answer, but we absolutely try to be not transactional in our nature, right? When we sign that deal, we want that to be the start of a relationship instead of just signing the deal and saying, see you later.
Thanks. Hopefully the Packers get redemption on the Bucks this weekend too.
It was a rough regular season. Yeah, I turned that one off early, but just looking forward to Rodgers versus Brady. This isn't how I thought it was going to be, but here we are. Yeah, I saw a chat. Libby, I'll send you the PDF of the PowerPoint for you to send around to everybody.
That'd be fine. I'm actually recording this, so this will be on our website as well, so
Cool.
people view the entire presentation.
Great.
We have a school board member on. Paul Lambert is a current school board member. I'm a former school board member for Hilliard, but that's why I always say we. Well, Paul will find that out when he's no longer on school board. You never go they, it's always we. But he had mentioned in the chat too that about the great relationship with AWS and the school district and at our innovation thing. I mean, I know I went for the dedication for that that initiative and so forth, and the Cool Tech girl, she's a friend of mine as well. So it's a great partnership. I don't know, Paul, if you want to say anything about that or not. Here he comes on.
Yep. Yeah. No, Libby, nothing additional, but they have been a great partner through a lot of ways. In fact, we're hoping to connect with them on some curricular things where some of our students that are interested in IT as a career can perhaps get some of the training that AWS offers for trainings and certifications that AWS offers for folks. So yeah, they've been a great addition to the community.
Great, thanks.
Great.
Well, I know one of my other questions, since you're like with the liquor thing, can you like give some Blanton, like I'm a little dry on that area. Just
that's a popular one. I know. I mentioned OHLQ. I think it's just ohlq.com. I don't know if you've been to that website, but must have typed it in wrong. Yeah, go to ohlq.com. Check it out. We're really trying. I know you're making a little joke about plans, but like that's a real thing, and I know you want to know where it is, where you can find it when it's in. It's rare, so we're really trying hard to make that website as real time as possible, so you can look at, okay, if I go to this Giant Eagle or this Kroger at this time, I have a pretty good likelihood of finding that rare whatever it is. So yeah.
Well, the thing is, I'm not
we'll chat later. I'll hook you up.
Okay,
Just
well,
kidding. This is
I know,
recorded.
kidding. No, but people who stand in line at 6 a.m. for a 9 o'clock opening, no, I'm done. I mean, I was
Yeah.
on the Blantons way before the Vanway and came into town. I've got all the stoppers, so it's like not. There's other good bourbons, so, but I just thought that was. I will check that out. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, check out the website. We've really done our best to try to professionalize that business. It was in pretty dire straits a few years ago, just the way the inventory was tracked and the business was run, and we've put a lot into it. In COVID, the wholesale sales to bars and restaurants were decimated for a while. Retail sales directly to consumers were up. It's interesting. It's not necessarily really. I got corrected by our beverage system director the other day. It's not necessarily that consumption is up. It's that people have gravitated towards higher priced, more quality product. And then when you factor in, if a bar and restaurant's closed, you may go order one drink. If you go to the store and you purchase, obviously you're purchasing a full bottle, right? That will last you for X amount of time. So the liquor business is doing okay. And with that, we're really trying to invest in social responsibility, because we know this pandemic had a lot of effects on mental health and addiction in the state, and we take that serious. Obviously, we want good funding for economic development, but we want healthy and safe Ohioans as well.
And the other thing that we partnered with JobsOhio is with the city of Hilliard and sending out the PPE. Angela Zodi's on the call too, she's in the economic development department with David Meadows. And that was a really great partnership that happened. And we were very grateful that the city of Hilliard included us in that distribution of PPE. And that was huge for our community as well. Angela, I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to thank you, Tyler, and your department for that, because we were in conjunction with the chamber, we're able to get hundreds of PPE boxes within a 2-week time frame. And that was when I was just starting in economic development. So it was just a great way for me to walk into a business along with Libby and introduce myself. And most people already knew Libby. So it was wonderful. And that's exactly what the businesses needed at that time. So we were very, very thankful. And then I just have a quick question. If you could give us any examples of other communities that you think just do a fantastic job of supporting their small businesses, whether it's through the city. I'm just always looking for other ways. We're very, very blessed to have our partnership with the chamber, but how we can continue to support small businesses, not only now, but just into the future.
Yeah, no, and thanks for saying that about the PPE distribution. I think on top of it being a necessity for the companies to receive that, we saw a lot of it was just an opportunity to make those relationships, like you mentioned, with those businesses by walking in the door with something to hand off to them and help them out. So I'm glad you felt that too. I think instead of pointing to another local community, I would really encourage you to get, I'm sure you guys do have that relationship with One Columbus, but they have their entire Prepared Communities Win initiative that they really focus on. Their goal is to make every community in their region the most prepared, communities in the country. I would just, I'm sure there's a relationship there, but really spend time with Kenny McDonald and his team to help do that. They could probably share some other communities to kind of hook you up with. I'd be happy to make that connection too. But I'd really focus on getting to know those folks.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions at all? Thank you, Tyler. Jill, you want to take it from here?
There was one more question. Vivian typed
Sorry.
in, expand on the talent acquisition services.
Yes, got it. Thank you. The talent acquisition services is offered as an incentive. So it would be if we're working with a company to either bring them to Ohio for the first time or to help them expand. Talent acquisition services offers a really customized talent strategy for that company's project. So that would be really helping them tap into the local talent assets, whether it's a university, community college, vocational school, wherever they can find their talent, helping them enter into that resource, find talent. We can be really creative. Sometimes we can come up with a plan with that, say it's a career tech, to help train up a certain amount of individuals, help bolster that programming. And then even more simple stuff for the company that we're working with, help them with their HR processes, their recruiting techniques, help make sure that they can screen, source the right talent. It is an incentive that goes along with an economic development project. So, it is used in that role, but it's really there to be a complete start to finish, help that company find the right talent and tap into the right local resources. One Columbus does have a kind of the gateway into this. If you're more interested, I think, is One Columbus does have a regional talent manager on their team. JobsOhio, when we stood this up, I think 3 or 4 years ago, funded each of the 6 regional partners to employ a regional talent manager that really runs that. So that person should be the one that's kind of the guru on all the assets that you may have in Hilliard or around your community, where the employers that are seeking employees can find that person.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. Tyler, thanks for your time today and joining us. Everyone, thanks for attending. Have a great weekend and look for more information about the February luncheon that will be coming out soon. See you then.
Thanks.